Chase Whitmore didn't believe in fate until that one afternoon on Venice Beach. The sun was sharp, burning the sand under his feet, but he wasn't there for relaxation. Not really. He had just walked out of a 10-hour reconstructive surgery. At the clinic, he owned the kind of intense case that left even the most seasoned surgeon mentally drained. He didn't know why he drove straight to the beach. Maybe to breathe. Maybe to escape the silence of his penthouse. Or maybe something or someone was calling him. He was sipping a bottle of vitamin water, leaning against a lifeguard post when he heard it. A child's voice, small but firm. "Please stop yelling, sir. We don't want any trouble." Chase turned his head and saw a man mid-40s, sunburned clearly, intoxicated, towering over 3 small children. They were standing behind a makeshift wooden tray filled with colorful handmade bracelets. The man was slurring insults, calling them liars, and street rats accusing them of trying to scam people. The oldest child, a boy, with chestnut curls and striking blue eyes, stood in front of his siblings protectively. He couldn't have been more than 9. The other 2, identical in appearance, likely triplets, clung to him nervously. "Where's your mother, huh? Using you to get easy money?" The man stepped closer. Chase felt something stir inside him. He didn't think. He just walked. In seconds, he was standing between the man and the children. "Back off," Chase said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were steel. "They're kids. Go be drunk somewhere else." The man sneered. "What's it to you, pretty boy?" Chase didn't flinch. "I'm a plastic surgeon. If you don't walk away, you'll need one." The man scoffed, but backed off, muttering curses as he stumbled away. Chase turned to the kids. "You okay?" The 3 nodded. The oldest said, "Thank you, sir. We didn't mean to cause trouble. We're just trying to sell bracelets for our mom." Chase looked at the tray. The bracelets were clumsily beautiful, clearly handmade. "Did you make these, all of us?" helped the youngest one, piped up. Her eyes were green on one side and hazel on the other. It startled him for a second, heterochromia rare but not unheard of. Chase pulled out his wallet. "I'll take all of them." All the kids gasped. "How much for the lot?" $36, the boy answered after counting. Chase handed over 2 20s. "Keep the change." The children beamed. The middle child asked shyly, "Why are you being so nice?" Chase shrugged. "Because someone should be." The oldest spoke again. "We don't like doing this, you know, but we want to help our mom. She cries when she thinks we're asleep. We don't want her to cry anymore." Chase felt something twist in his chest. He'd fixed countless faces, rebuilt confidence, made fortunes off beauty. But in that moment, standing barefoot on the hot sand with 3 kids staring up at him, he realized he hadn't helped anyone the way he wanted to. "What's your mom's name?" he asked. Maya Rivero." He nodded. "Where is she?" "At home finishing some orders for her job. She makes perfumes. Can you take me to her?" The boy hesitated. Why? Chase paused, surprised at himself for even asking. "Because I want to help her too." The walk to their home took nearly 15 minutes. Chase followed the 3 children as they weaved through side streets and crossed 2 intersections. The city was bustling, the air filled with salt and sun and the sound of tourists, but Chase's mind was elsewhere. He glanced at the children occasionally. They walked in perfect sync, like a practiced unit, as if they had been depending on each other their whole lives. When they reached a small, aging apartment building above a laundromat, the oldest boy turned to him. "We live on the 2nd floor. You can wait outside if you want." Chase raised an eyebrow. Would your mom be okay with that? Probably not, the girl mumbled, but she also needs help. Chase nodded slowly. Lead the way. Inside the apartment was small but tidy. There was a faint scent of jasmine and sandalwood. On the counter sat rows of small glass bottles, some filled with golden liquid, others labeled with handwritten names, Ocean Rain-Warm Citrus Garden Sleep. A woman emerged from the back room wiping her hands on an apron stained with essential oils. She stopped in her tracks when she saw Chase. Her eyes were wide, her posture instantly tense. "Who's this?" she asked, eyes darting toward her children. The boy stepped forward. "He helped us. That man at the beach, he almost hurt us. But he stepped in, and then he asked to meet you." Chase cleared his throat. "I'm sorry for the sudden visit. My name's Chase Whitmore. Your kids were selling bracelets. I was impressed and worried. I thought maybe there's a way I could help." Maya Rivero stood still for a moment, examining him with guarded eyes. She looked young, much younger than he expected. Petite frame, dark curls, tied back face, fresh with little to no makeup. There was a natural elegance about her, a beauty that didn't scream for attention, but whispered it instead. "Thank you for looking out for them," she said finally. "I know it looks strange, kids out selling things, but we're just trying to get by." Chase shook his head. "No judgment. I just think they deserve to be somewhere better." "And so do you." Maya's expression tightened. "I've heard that before. Help that comes with strings attached." "Not for me," Chase said softly. "I own a medical aesthetics clinic, one of the best in LA. I also sit on the board of a few wellness brands. We're actually looking for someone to help us with product testing and scent development. A few part-time hours a week. It pays well. I can't promise you a miracle, but I can offer stability. And your kids wouldn't have to work on the streets again." Maya looked stunned. "You'd give that kind of job to a stranger?" "To a mother doing everything she can for her kids," he replied. "Absolutely." She looked at her children. The girl gave her a hopeful smile. The boy stood tall, trying to appear brave. Maya's gaze softened. "I make perfumes, yes, but only small batches. I've never worked in a lab, if that's what you're asking. Not a problem. We can teach that. What you already know is valuable." She hesitated for a long second, then nodded. "Okay, I'll try." Chase smiled. "You won't regret it." As he walked out of the apartment a few minutes later, his phone buzzed. A message from his assistant reminded him of the dinner meeting he was already late for. He didn't care. Something about Maya, about her kids, had left an impression far deeper than any celebrity client or press article ever had. That night, as he stared out from his penthouse balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly before him, all he could think about was the look in Maya's eyes. Strong but tired, guarded but kind. She didn't ask for saving, she never begged. But somehow she made him want to be the kind of man who could save someone without needing anything in return. Maya showed up at the clinic 3 days later, wearing the same cautious expression she had when they first met. Her shoulders were slightly squared, her eyes steady but wary. Chase noticed how she held herself like someone who had spent years preparing for disappointment. He greeted her at the front desk himself, ignoring the curious looks from his staff. "You're early," he said with a smile. "I didn't want to get stuck in traffic," she replied. "Or change my mind." Chase chuckled. "Fair enough. Come with me. I'll give you the tour." He took her through the clinic, explaining each room, introducing her to key staff members, and finally leading her into the product testing lab. The space smelled of rose oil tea tree and something citrusy. Maya inhaled deeply, eyes widening. "This is your new playground," Chase said. She took it in quietly, touching nothing, simply observing. He noticed how her fingers twitched slightly when she passed a tray of essential oils. "We've been trying to develop a signature line of mood fragrances," he explained. "I'd love your help creating something calming, something real." Maya nodded. "I can do that. I have a few blends at home I've never sold. Too personal. Bring them next time." She looked at him as if trying to figure out if he was being sincere. Chase held her gaze. "I mean it." That day she worked for 5 hours, mostly in silence. She didn't complain, didn't ask questions unless necessary. At lunch, he offered to take her out, but she declined. Instead, he ordered for both of them, and they ate together in the staff kitchen. "Why me?" she asked midway through her sandwich. Chase tilted his head. "Because you've got talent. You don't even know me." "That's true," he admitted, "but I've learned to trust my gut. Most men with money don't." "Then maybe I'm not like most men." She didn't reply, but he saw the faintest flicker of a smile touch her lips. Over the next few weeks, Maya came to the clinic 3 days a week. Each time she brought new ideas, and Chase found himself looking forward to her visits more than he was willing to admit. They never talked about their personal lives in depth, but little details slipped through. She mentioned how her kids adored puzzles, how she stayed up late sewing their Halloween costumes, how she hadn't bought anything for herself in years. One afternoon, while they were testing a new scent she had crafted, he asked, "Do you ever take a break?" Maya glanced at him. "Mothers don't get breaks. They should. We should get a lot of things," she said quietly. "But life doesn't work that way." He couldn't argue with that. Not when he remembered how she looked when they first met. Tired, stretched thin, but still standing tall. That night, he did something impulsive. He stopped by a bookstore and picked up a boxed puzzle set for the kids. He dropped it off at her apartment without warning, leaving it at the door with a note. "For your brilliant trio, no strings, just smiles." The next morning, she cornered him in the clinic hallway. "You didn't have to do that," she said, not angry, just perplexed. "I know, I wanted to." She exhaled. "They loved it, spent hours on it." "Good," he replied. "They deserve to play. And you deserve to breathe." "I don't know how to do that anymore." "Then let me help." After that, something shifted. Maya started to open up more. She laughed occasionally, shared stories, even joked with the receptionist. Chase, in turn, found himself drawn to her in ways that startled him. He liked watching her think the way she pursed her lips, when focused the way she talked to her children, with equal parts gentleness and authority. He started driving her home after late shifts, insisting it wasn't safe for her to take the bus. The kids would greet him at the door with excitement, dragging him inside to show their puzzles or share silly drawings. One Friday evening, the kids were away at a sleepover, and Maya offered to cook him dinner as thanks. He accepted. Her apartment smelled like baked garlic and sweet basil when he arrived. She cooked pasta with homemade sauce, and they ate at the tiny kitchen table. "This is amazing," he said, twirling the pasta on his fork. "Better than any 5-star restaurant." "Don't exaggerate." "I never do," he said with a smirk. She shook her head, amused. After dinner, they sat on the couch sipping tea. The TV was off, the lights dim. Maya stared ahead and then, almost in a whisper, asked, "What are we doing, Chase?" He looked at her surprised. "What do you mean?" "This. You keep showing up. You're kind to me, to the kids, but you're you, and I'm me. I don't care about titles or status." "You should." "Because I do. Why? Because I've seen what happens when a man like you gets bored." Chase leaned in slightly. "I'm not bored. I'm fascinated." Maya's eyes dropped to her hands. "I don't want to be a charity case. You're not." "Then what am I?" "Someone I think about more than I should," he said honestly. "Someone who makes me feel like I've been sleepwalking for years." She didn't respond. Silence filled the space between them, but it wasn't empty. It was electric. Her hand rested on the armrest close to his. He placed his fingers beside hers. She didn't pull away. He didn't push further. That night he went home, feeling both hopeful and confused. He wanted her, but more than that, he respected her. He dated models, heiresses, women who expected flowers and yachts. Maya expected nothing and yet gave so much. 1 week later, everything nearly fell apart. A tabloid published a photo of Chase with a woman he had briefly dated months ago. The headline read, "LA's plastic, Prince reignites old flame." Maya saw it. She didn't confront him, but her eyes were colder, her posture tighter. He noticed. "You saw it?" he said flatly one afternoon. She nodded. "It's none of my business, but it bothers you." She didn't answer. "That photo was taken a month before I met you. We're not together. You don't owe me an explanation, but I want to give one." Her jaw tightened. "Don't make promises you don't intend to keep." He stepped closer. "Then let me make one I intend to keep. I'm not going anywhere." She looked up at him, and for the first time her guard slipped. Her voice trembled. "I'm scared." "So am I," he admitted. "But sometimes the things that scare us the most are exactly what we need." That night when he dropped her home, she lingered by his car. "Would you like to come in?" she asked softly. He nodded. Inside the apartment was dimly lit, the kids already asleep. She poured him tea again. They sat in silence. Then slowly she reached for his hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me." Chase didn't speak. He just leaned forward, and for the first time he kissed her. It was gentle, cautious, but full of unspoken truths. He pulled back only slightly, their foreheads touching. "I'm here, Maya, for as long as you'll let me be." The next few weeks passed like a dream, the kind of gentle rhythm Chase hadn't known he needed. He began showing up not just as a boss or friend, but as something more permanent. Maya never said the word relationship out loud, but her hand found his every time he reached for it. The kids started calling him Uncle Chase, and though he never corrected them every time they said it, something inside him melted. He spent more and more evenings at their apartment, sometimes cooking dinner, sometimes helping with homework. Maya made him laugh without trying, challenged his opinions, and surprised him with her quiet strength. But for all the warmth that bloomed between them, there were questions Chase hadn't asked, and answers Maya hadn't volunteered. One night, while folding laundry together, Chase picked up a worn onesie from a pile. "This is tiny," he said, holding it up. From when they were babies, Maya looked at it for a moment, too long before replying. "Yes, I kept a few things. Did you have any help when they were born?" She hesitated, folding a towel slower than usual. "Some. But mostly it was just me." "That must have been hard." "It was, but I survived." He noticed the shift in her voice. The wall going back up. He didn't press, but later that night when she fell asleep beside him, her breathing steady and soft, he sat up and looked around her room. On the dresser next to a stack of books sat a small wooden box. He didn't open it, but he stared at it, wondering what it held. The next day at the clinic, he brought it up casually. "Have you ever thought about making a fragrance dedicated to your story?" She glanced up from her notes. "My story." "Yeah, your journey, motherhood, struggle, survival." She paused. "I don't think anyone would buy that." "I would," he said gently. She gave him a small smile but didn't answer. That afternoon, Chase had lunch with his mother, Dr. Elise Whitmore, at a rooftop restaurant in Santa Monica. Elise was as commanding as ever, dressed in crisp white and diamonds, every strand of her silver hair in place. "I heard you've been spending time in a very different part of town," she said as soon as they sat down. "News travels fast. You're a Whitmore. Everything you do is news." Chase sighed. "Mom Maya is a good woman. Strong, honest. You'd like her if you gave her a chance." Elise raised a brow. "She has 3 children and no husband in sight. She raises them alone. She works hard. You of all people should respect that." Elise took a sip of her wine. "I raised you and built my career. That doesn't mean I want you tied to someone with baggage." "They're not baggage," Chase said sharply. "They're part of the reason I admire her." His mother didn't argue further, but the tension between them lingered. That night, Chase told Maya about the conversation. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "You don't have to defend me. I want to, and I will." A few days later, Chase picked up the kids from school for the first time. As they walked home, the youngest tugged at his hand. "Uncle Chase, do you think Mommy's happy?" "Now, why do you ask?" "Because sometimes she smiles." But her eyes still look sad. Chase knelt down. "Your mom is one of the bravest people I know. She carries a lot, but I think she's starting to heal." The kids seemed satisfied with the answer, but Chase couldn't stop thinking about it. That night he brought Maya dinner. The kids were already asleep, and she looked exhausted. As they ate in the living room, he asked gently, "Do you ever talk to anyone about what you've been through?" She looked at him guarded. "What do you mean you've raised 3 amazing kids? On your own? That couldn't have been easy. I don't really talk about it. Maybe you should." She stared at her plate. Some stories aren't meant to be shared. Some are meant to be buried. But what if the truth sets you free? Maya looked up, her expression softening. Some truths don't free you. They change you. And sometimes you're not ready for that. Chase didn't reply. He respected her boundaries, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface. A week later, the clinic held an open house event for their new product line, and Maya's fragrances were the highlight. Clients raved about her scents, praising their depth and emotion. Chase watched her from across the room, proud and completely smitten. After the event, he found her standing alone on the balcony, looking out at the city. "You did amazing," he said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "It's surreal," she whispered. "All of this. Sometimes I wake up and think it's going to disappear. It's not." She leaned back into him. "Do you really mean everything you say to me, every word?" "Then there's something you should know." He turned her gently to face him. Her eyes shimmered with uncertainty. "I've never told anyone this, not even the kids, but you deserve to know." Chase nodded, giving her space. She took a breath. "I'm not their biological mother." The words hung in the air like smoke. Chase blinked. "What? They're not mine, not by blood." She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. "I was 16 when I met Lauren. She was pregnant, alone. She took me in like a sister. I stayed with her until she gave birth. But something went wrong. She didn't survive. The babies had no one. So I became their mother." Chase stared at her speechless. "I've raised them since they were hours old. I never tried to replace her. I just loved them with everything I had." He walked closer. "So all this time, you've done this alone?" "Yes." "And you were just a teenager?" "Yes." "Maya." She looked down. "That's why I'm scared. I've never let anyone in. Never dated. Never." She hesitated. "Never been with anyone." His voice dropped. "You mean?" She nodded. "I've never had sex, Chase. I'm a virgin." Silence followed. Not judgmental, just quiet. Chase moved closer, gently, taking her hand. "That doesn't change how I feel about you. If anything, I admire you even more." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're not disgusted, no," he whispered. "I'm in awe." She let out a shaky breath, and he pulled her into his arms. They stood on the balcony wrapped in each other, the city glowing below them. Neither of them knew what the future held, but in that moment they knew one thing for certain. Whatever truth Maya had feared would push him away had instead pulled him closer. And something deep inside her, something wounded and fragile, began to heal. The days after Maya's confession brought a quiet shift in their relationship. There were no dramatic declarations or sudden changes, only a soft growing understanding between them. Chase didn't push. He didn't ask for more than what she was ready to give. But he stayed. He made breakfast when the kids were running late for school. He helped Maya bottle her newest fragrance line when she fell behind schedule. He even installed a new water filter in her kitchen after noticing her faucet leaking. He simply became part of the house. The kids started treating him like he had always been there. Red asked him to help build a science project. Luna invited him to her class play. Milo started calling him Dad when no one was listening. Chase didn't correct it, not once. Still, Maya remained hesitant. Not because she didn't feel something for him, if anything she felt too much, but because she didn't know how to let love in without fearing it might walk away. That fear grew sharper the night she overheard Chase arguing with his mother on the phone. "This isn't just a phase, Mom," he said, pacing near the kitchen window. "She's not someone I'm experimenting with. She's someone He stopped when he saw Maya standing behind him. Elise's voice continued on the other end, but Chase ended the call quickly. Maya crossed her arms. "You don't have to defend me to your family." "I want to," he replied, "but you shouldn't have to. They'll come around." "And if they don't," Chase stepped forward, "then that's their loss, not mine." She searched his face, trying to find cracks, doubts, anything to prepare herself for heartbreak. But all she saw was certainty. A week later, Maya invited Chase to visit the cemetery with her and the kids. It was Lauren's death anniversary, and they had a ritual of bringing flowers, lighting a candle, and sitting quietly by her grave. Chase hadn't expected to feel much. He'd never known Lauren, but when he saw the headstone, when he saw Maya's fingers, tracing the name with reverence, when he saw the triplets kneeling with eyes closed, it hit him in a way he couldn't explain. Later that evening, back at the apartment, he asked Maya a simple question. "Do you have any photos of her?" She nodded and went to retrieve a box from the closet. She pulled out a small envelope and handed it to him. Chase opened it slowly. The photo was old, slightly faded, showing a young woman in a white dress, sitting on a wooden bench, smiling gently at the camera. Her hair was long and dark. her features soft but striking. Chase felt the air leave his lungs. He sat down. This can't be. Maya looked at him confused. What is it? He held up the photo. This woman, this is my mother. Maya's heart skipped. What? This is Elise, but younger. He shook his head. No, wait, this is Lauren. You said her name was Lauren Jameson, yes. My biological mother was named Lauren Jameson. My father told me she left when I was a baby. I never met her. Elise adopted me after she remarried. Maya froze. That means... Chase stared at the photo again, the pieces clicking into place. These kids, they're my siblings. He looked up at Maya. You've been raising my siblings all this time. Maya sat beside him stunned. I didn't know, I swear. Lauren never mentioned you. She couldn't have. My father's family pushed her out. They never wanted me to find her. Oh my God, she whispered. Chase stood and began pacing. It all makes sense now. The connection I felt, the way I was drawn to them, to you. He turned to face her. It wasn't random, it was family. That night he didn't go home. He stayed sitting on the floor with Maya, going through every photo, every piece of memory she had of Lauren. And in the morning when the kids woke up and asked why his eyes were puffy, he simply said, because I finally found something I didn't know I was missing. Later that week, Chase confronted his father, Richard Whitmore, about Lauren. Why did you lie? He demanded. Richard looked down, his face wrinkled with guilt. Because I thought I was protecting you. From what? From pain. From rejection. Lauren was taken from us before we could make things right. I didn't want you to hate me for letting her go. Chase slammed the photo on the table. She died alone, raising 3 children. She never abandoned me. You abandoned her. Richard said nothing. The truth was heavy between them. Chase walked away. He had a new family now, and he wasn't about to lose them. Back at Maya's apartment, he gathered the triplets in the living room. Maya stood close, her hands shaking slightly. There's something we want to tell you, she began. About your mom, your real mom. The kids listened silently as she told the story. When she got to the part about Lauren's death, Luna started crying. Red hugged her tightly. Milo looked at Chase. So if she's our mom, and you're her son, does that mean you're our brother? Chase nodded, eyes glassy. Yeah, I'm your big brother. Milo ran forward and hugged him. Luna followed. Red joined a second later. Maya wiped her tears, overwhelmed by the sight. You're still our mommy, right? Luna asked. Of course, Maya whispered. Always. That night the apartment felt different. Not just warm, whole. The past had finally come full circle. And Chase, who once believed love was something that didn't last, now saw it in the faces of 3 children who had unknowingly shared his blood all along, and in the eyes of the woman who had loved them first. The morning after the revelation, Chase stood at the kitchen sink of Maya's apartment, watching the kids argue cheerfully over cereal while Maya packed their lunches. It felt like a dream, the kind you didn't want to wake up from. Everything had changed, yet nothing had. The kids still called her mom, still clung to her hugs like oxygen, but now there was this unspoken thread of blood tying them to Chase, threading through decades of loss and coincidence, to bring them here to this tiny kitchen with cracked tiles and the scent of cinnamon toast. As the kids grabbed their backpacks and headed out the door for school, Maya turned to him. Are you okay? He nodded. Yeah, I keep thinking how close we all came to never finding each other. Maya leaned against the counter. Fate can be cruel. but sometimes it gives you back what it took. Chase smiled and reached for her hand. Do you realize what you did, Maya? You saved them. You raised them like your own. You gave them a life they would have never had. I didn't save them, she said softly. They saved me. The day moved slowly. Chase canceled his meetings. He stayed close to Maya not because she asked, but because it felt wrong to be anywhere else. They walked through a local park after lunch, sat beneath a tree as the breeze played with Maya's curls. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Have you thought about what this means now? She asked. For the kids. For us, all I know is I don't want to go another day without you in my life. Even if people talk, they already do, he said with a smile. Let them talk. That evening, Chase brought Maya and the kids to his penthouse for dinner. It was the first time all of them had been there together. The kids were in awe, running through the hallway, marveling at the city view, the grand piano, the massive TV. Maya looked out of place. At first, her arms folded tightly across her chest, her eyes scanning every corner like she was trying not to touch anything. Chase noticed and walked over, resting a hand on her back. You belong here, he said quietly. This place means nothing without you in it. She gave him a small smile. It's just a lot. He nodded. Then we'll take it slow. After dinner, the kids fell asleep on the couch, exhausted. Maya helped Chase clean up the two of them, moving in rhythm. As she dried the last plate, he turned to her. Stay the night, he said. With me. She hesitated. The kids are safe and sound. He reached for her hand. You don't have to be scared, Maya. Not of me. Not anymore. She looked up at him, her eyes uncertain, but soft. I'm not scared of you. I'm scared of how much I feel when I'm with you. Then let's feel it together. He kissed her then. Gently at first, then deeper, as her arms wrapped around his neck. They moved toward his bedroom, the world outside forgotten. That night, wrapped in his arms, Maya whispered truths she had never said aloud. How she used to cry herself to sleep, at 16, terrified of raising children alone. How she once gave up a scholarship to stay and feed 3 babies who weren't even hers. How she never expected anyone to choose her. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Chase told her, and the most beautiful. Her breath hitched. This is new for me, all of this. Then we'll learn together. In the morning, sunlight streamed through the window as Maya stirred beside him. She opened her eyes slowly, the kind of soft waking that comes only when someone feels safe. Chase brushed a curl from her cheek. Good morning, he whispered. She smiled. Is it, Tim? It is now. Over the next few weeks, life began to settle into a strange, beautiful routine. Chase split his time between the clinic and Maya's home. The kids started calling him Dad without even realizing it. He went to parent-teacher meetings, packed lunchboxes, and told bedtime stories. He taught Red how to ride a bike, helped Luna build a terrarium for science class, and played chess with Milo every Sunday morning. He and Maya talked about moving in together. They even toured homes closer to the kids' school, but not everything was perfect. Rumors began to spread, articles online speculating about Chase's new family reporters, snapping photos when they were out in public. One blog ran a headline that made Maya's heart sink. Plastic surgeon turned single mom savior or scandal, waiting to happen. Maya saw it late one night and tried to hide it, but Chase found her sitting on the couch, her face pale. You saw it? She asked. He nodded. I don't care what they say. But I do, she said quietly. Not for me, for the kids, for you. He sat beside her, cupping her face. Let them talk. We know the truth. That's all that matters. Sometimes truth isn't loud enough. Then we'll speak louder. He paused, then added, "Come to the gala with me. The medical board is hosting a fundraiser next month. You and the kids, be there as my family." Maya looked uncertain. "That's a big step. So is love." She smiled through her nerves. "Okay." When the night of the gala arrived, Maya wore a simple black dress Chase had picked out. The kids were dressed in matching suits and a satin blue dress. As they walked into the hall together, cameras flashed, voices called out. But Maya kept her head high, her hand in Chase's. A few reporters tried to shout questions. Chase simply held her hand tighter. During his speech, he introduced Maya and the kids to the audience. "This is my family," he said clearly, proudly. Not because of blood or papers, but because love is the only real bond that matters. The room fell silent for a beat, then erupted in applause. That night, as they returned home, Maya hugged him tightly in the hallway. "I didn't think I could be this happy." "Believe it," he whispered, "because it's only the beginning." In her heart, I knew he was right. The weeks after the gala unfolded, like the kind of life Maya used to imagine, from behind fogged bus windows and grocery store lines. Chase didn't just love her, he loved the kids, like he had always been there, like blood had only ever been a technicality. The apartment felt smaller, but their world felt bigger. The kind of peace Maya had never dared to dream of slowly became her reality. One quiet Sunday morning, while the kids played in the next room and sunlight poured over the hardwood floors, Chase knelt on one knee in the middle of their tiny living room. There was no music, no audience, no camera crew. Just a velvet box, a shaking hand, and eyes that held everything. "Maya," he began, his voice steady, despite the emotion thickening it. "You gave your whole life to 3 children you didn't have to love, but you chose to love them anyway. You raised them with strength, with patience, with grace. You taught me what family means. You made me believe in something I had long stopped believing in. And I don't want another day to go by without calling you my wife. Will you marry me?" Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled instantly. The kids peeked around the corner, gasping in unison. She dropped to her knees in front of him, cupping his face, unable to speak. Only a nod came first, and then a broken whisper. Yes. The wedding was small. Just them, the kids, a few close friends, and the ocean. The ceremony took place at the same beach where Chase had met the triplets. Luna wore a crown of white flowers. Red and Milo served as ring bearers. Maya walked down the sand barefoot, hand in hand with the children. When they reached Chase, she passed their hands into his, symbolizing that from this moment on, they all belonged to each other. They exchanged vows written on notebook paper. Nothing rehearsed, all heart. "You saved me," Chase said, voice trembling as he looked into her eyes. "And somehow you gave me back pieces of my past I never knew were missing. I will spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, and being the father these incredible kids already see in me." Maya placed her hands over his. "You didn't just fall in love with a single mom," she said softly. "You fell into a family, and somehow you fit, like you were always meant to be here." The sun dipped low as they kissed the kids, clapping and throwing petals into the wind. Laughter followed, the sound of a new beginning. A few weeks later, Maya stood at the window of their new home, a quiet house with a garden and enough rooms for each child, to grow into their dreams. Chase came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Do you believe it now?" he whispered against her ear. "That this is real?" She leaned back into him. "Every day I do, and every day it feels like the first." Outside, the kids laughed as they chased butterflies near the lemon tree. A family found not by accident, but by choice. Not by blood, but by love. And for the first time in years, Maya didn't feel like she had to look over her shoulder. She didn't worry that it would all disappear. Because the man beside her wasn't someone who came to rescue her. He came to stay. Love in its purest form had found them in the unlikeliest of ways. And it chose to stay. Because sometimes family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up and never leaves.